Alrighty. Back at it again. Second second stream. I just need to get something situated. Okay. Alrighty. I can hear myself. That's unacceptable. Alright. Today, yesterday, I just I'm finishing this. I did it with music last night, but it was just like, I don't know, it was just hard for me to work with just music. Because I always watch videos, so this time, we're watching a video, and I pinned what video we're watching. It's specifically called, wait, let me go into it. I solved Gaster's mysterious Valentine's card. Deltarune newsletter discussion and analysis. So, I've just been watching, like, a ton of Undertale and Deltarune, like, theory videos because I crave, chapter 3, so that's the video we're watching. I'm going to try to talk through it and not just let the video, run. So I'll pause it here and there, but yeah, I'm just mainly going to be working on this while the video runs. So I will start playing it and let me know if the audio is okay. I checked it, so it should be fine. But yeah.
Well, here we are, Ted. We're here to get Occam to join us for our school project. Excellent. Hello,
I
boys.
love that movie.
My name is Occam, and this is my razor. In philosophy, Occam's razor is the problem-solving principle that recommends searching for explanations.
So, sorry. But, all I need to do for this, I'm like so close to finishing this animation, but I need to like color in the hair, or like the line art for the hair, and then do this part, and, draw. Okay. Whoa. That was weird. A white screen just appeared on everything. That was strange. That's not something that I want to just happen when I'm live. That is so unnerving. Okay, anyway. Yeah, I need to draw on like the face for that. Yeah, and then color everything else and blah 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 blah. That's where I'm at. So, okay, let's see. Hopefully the video's gonna run now.
Constructed with the smallest possible set of elements.
Hooray.
Or in easier to understand terminology, the simplest answer is usually the right one. Now, I can't see that principle ever being challenged by any individual ever.
That was loud.
This is not Gaster. It cannot be Gaster, and I am sure of it. Okay, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself.
I think it's Gaster.
A few days ago, Toby Fox released the Deltarune Winter Newsletter 2024 with a whole Valentine's Day theme. On top of definitively killing off Woody Theory and showing some really cool concept art, he also gave everyone who got the letter a handful of Valentine's.
Oh yeah, I got, for that Valentine's letter. I was so jealous. My friend got, Jockington, and all it said was, "Dear Valentine's Day, tennis ball." And, I mean, I wish I got that one. I would have loved that one. Let me see. I got 2 papyrus ones and one Groby one. And the Groby one is just him saying ... But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the... Don't get me wrong. I love the papyrus ones. But, yeah.
Valentine's Day cards, written by your favorite Undertale and Deltarune characters.
Let's keep checking.
Dear recipient, give this card to your mom. Dear recipient's mom, give this card to your mom.
Damn. No way. I can't believe you just said that.
They're cute, they're funny, and there's
That was
50
a
of
long
them.
pause.
Among these letters, the rarest letter of all is one from, well, I'll let you come to your own conclusion. It's a strange
Gaster.
letter. It's more or less completely illegible. But if you squint your
It's
eyes
Gaster, I
and
swear.
you squint your heart, for some reason you feel you could understand it. Well, Happy New Year! Or was it the old year? Well, in any case, how is Deltarune? As you are waiting patiently, the
so
time
good.
is going around. There was even a rumor of Valentine's Day. How absurd. Every day is a day of love if only you believe it so. Do you believe it so? So,
No.
the purpose of the message. I want to help. Yes, there was someone I wanted to help. I seem to have forgotten who. Yes, it's quite ironic, but I seem to have forgotten. Was it myself? No. Well, perhaps. Regardless, when I see them, I'm
Why are you
certain I'll
talking
know
like
it straight
that?
away. I never forget someone I don't remember.
Bro,
Will you
speaking
help
in
me?
riddles.
You are very odd, responding out loud to a letter. But you seem reliable. I will be counting on you. Now, put on your coat and wash your face. Or put on your face and wash your coat. Not necessarily in that order. Or in any order at all. Goodbye. There was a sound like something walking away. And the letter was gone. Shortly after this letter released, it completely disappeared. I mean, going to that link now leads to an empty blank Valentine's Day card. Let's just be honest with each other. Is there really more than one character who could have written this? I mean, before we even talk about what I think or what you think, it's very, very obvious that our minds went to Gaster before anything else. It seems
Yes.
purposefully intended for Gaster speculation. First and
Yes.
foremost, the actual letter is basically asking us how we're enjoying Deltarune, comments on us waiting patiently, and then asks us if it will help the writer with their goal to help, well, somebody. They forget who. Despite this, they say that we seem reliable and will be counting on us. We know that Gaster is the only character to be canonly aware of Deltarune, and the only character who's ever spoken directly to us from inside the game world. There are, without a doubt, more characters beyond the Veil of Darkness, hidden in that mysterious black abyss that we've spoken to Gaster in. Goners,
you see,
deaths,
man?
eyes that peer at us from the corners of rooms, maybe more. We don't really know who or what resides in what fans call the depths. Besides, of course, Gaster. So, as of this moment, definitively, it seems as if this is Gaster. However, I'm not so
'Cause it
sure.
is.
No, actually, I don't think it's Gaster at all. And to prove it, I'm going to do some obtuse textual analysis. There are a whole bunch of detailed methods on the internet to analyze speech and dialogue and characters, but usually these are meant for human speakers, so I'm not going to use any kind of like scientifically proven way to analyze dialogue. This is a character written by an individual who we're not meant to include as part of the analysis, so I've broken the process of analyzing character dialogue down to an, well, equally complicated method. Here it is. In order to identify the speaker, we can break down this language into 4 separate attributes. Cadence, aka the rhythm of the sentence. The actual definition of cadence is the way your words flow and generally covers the sound of speech, but we don't have sound, so I'm using the word as a catch-all to describe the general flow of dialogue. We can look at sentence structure and speaking patterns to define what I personally consider the character's cadence. Language, by looking at the kind of
AP
words, level
lit.
of formality, and concepts discussed
is
by this
all
character,
AP lit.
we
It
can understand
is-
things about their maturity, emotional state, etc.
Yes.
Context. Basically, the
Context.
context behind a message. If a character talks about the Vietnam War as if he was there, the context that is added to the speaker's character is that he's a Vietnam veteran. Finally, function. The point and intention of the message. In a large story, the function of a character's dialogue changes sentence to sentence. However, if we look at the function of the message, we can line it up with previous functions to determine whether or not this individual's goals ever conflict with each other. It's worth mentioning that context and function are determined by the plot, whereas cadence and language are determined by the character. Typically, you only need cadence and language to find out who is speaking a line of dialogue. This line, for example, is quite obviously spoken by Papyrus. However, context and function can allow you to understand
Wowie.
if something a character has said sounds wrong, or out of character. Truthfully speaking, dialogue being deemed out of character is usually not a good piece of evidence for it to be secretly pointing to some larger mystery. However, with the very, very limited amount of Gaster interactions and knowledge that we have, his character feels purposefully built up in such a way that sloppy writing, in this particular instance, is a somewhat, at least, good argument for this being a different character. Regardless, by deconstructing his speech to identify how it falls into these 4 concepts, we can figure out if this is or isn't Gaster. First, like I said, we need to
is.
look at Gaster's
I
general
swear.
cadence and
I know.
language,
I'm
using
Toby.
every
I'm Toby
instance
Fox,
of
I
Gaster
know.
dialogue we have. In terms of speech patterns, Gaster speaks in tiny, statement-like bursts. The spacing comes into play here. Sure, Gaster technically says, I have something I want to show you, something I think you will find very, very interesting. But that's not how he says it. No, each line is its own statement. I have something, break. Something I want to show you, break. Something, break. I think you will find, break. Very, break. Very, break. Interesting. The breaks after each word separate each of these into tiny little sentence fragments and control the way that you read him and hear him in your head. In the Gonnermaker portion, Gaster's speech is slightly more put together. How do you feel about your creation? It will not hear, is altogether at once. However, the majority of the sequence still follows this pattern. Are we, break, connected? Excellent. Truly, break. Excellent. Break. Now, break. We may, break. Begin. And it goes on. I'm not going to keep saying break. These line breaks define Gaster's natural speaking cadence and is a purposeful choice. You can see in several instances that 3 lines of dialogue can be printed without a break between them. And yet, he continues to break the lines because, like I'm saying, you know, there's not a specific definitive statement I can make about this, but by having those breaks, by constantly having him pause, it defines the way that Gaster sounds in your head. That's really what it comes down to here. The continued use of this line break defines the way that we hear the dialogue. This continues not just in the intro, but across every Twitter appearance and entry number 17. So, short sentence-like bursts with frequent line breaks is very much a part of Gaster's characterization.
So funny. Does he get into arguments online on
Moving
Twitter?
on, there are several speech quirks that Gaster has, specifically the way he repeats a word twice. In entry 17, he says, very, very interesting, and dark, darker yet darker.
Wow.
In the Twitter takeover, he says, very, very interesting, and excellent, truly excellent. If you're willing to stretch out the requirements for a minute, you could even consider, of course they are the same, and shall we? Shall we go again? This is a habit of Gaster's, repeating the same word or series of words twice. Moving on, we also pick up on a few words he says often. Wonderful and interesting are the two that I think are said the most by Gaster. Not necessarily requirements in Gaster dialogue, but their repeated usage does at least suggest that they're a permanent fixture in Toby's Gaster toolbox. I think that this is enough in terms of his cadence. Moving on to language, Gaster is very unique in terms of what words he uses. Big words, scientific words. Frankly, I'm not like a pro wordsmith, so I'm not going to pretend. But it's obvious that Gaster has always had a very formal, business-like tone. This is the kind of thing I'd write to my teachers back in middle school when sending them an email. The tone is so formal and so logical that sometimes what would be a simple statement becomes an obtuse collection of large words. To finally be here on the verge of connection, you have done excellently to persevere. The biggest proponent of this is honestly the save menu dialogue. It is barren and cannot be copied. Choose the target for the reflection. The division is complete. It will be subsumed. It conformed to the reflection. By no means is Gaster just a walking dictionary pulling out large words for the sake of it, but everything he says, as you've seen, is very formal, very specific. Finally, I think it's important to mention that Gaster has never been too emotional. We haven't seen Gaster existing yet, hanging around, doing his own thing. Everything we've seen so far is very
hanging around. I saw him at the grocery store just the other day.
He says, "Now, show yourself, deltarune." And even here, this is the only instance of him ever using exclamation points. While he says things like, "To be here on the verge of connection is quite exciting," this isn't him showing that emotion through the dialogue. It's him outright telling us that emotion is how he feels about this. I've frequently described Gaster as plotting, because every message from him has explicit function that goes beyond a casual conversation. So, this is how I define Gaster's cadence and language. How does it stack up with the Valentine's card? First off, in terms of cadence, none of the frequent Gaster stylizations show up. He does not repeat one word twice. While he does take several phrases and repeat them, they are not nearly in the same style as how Gaster does it. They are usually out of confusion or not knowing what the correct answer is. He doesn't use the word wonderful nor interesting, nor does he mention anything about darkness or light. This character does not speak in the formal manner that Gaster does. This dialogue is light, silly, whimsical, like talking to someone completely informally and friendly. Gaster's messages were entirely business. His complete formality is literally what's defined our understanding of his character up to this point. This character says things like, "Happy New Year," or "Was it the old year?" Well, in any case, How is deltarune? There was even a rumor of Valentine's Day. How absurd. I want to help. Yes, there was someone I wanted to help. He exclaims that he wants to help. This is something he feels strongly about, and we can tell. I'd even go as far as to say that he is excited to help. He also shouts, put on your coat and wash your face. He does this same thing in exclamation when he ends the letter by saying goodbye. In this letter, there are 4 exclamation marks. This single Valentine's has more exclamation marks than Gaster has ever used ever. It adds to the general feeling of this being a whimsical, excited character. Furthermore, on the topic of whimsicality, this character is confused, in some kind of a daze. He doesn't know if it's the old year or the new year. He doesn't know who he's supposed to be helping. He doesn't know what order to put on your coat and wash your face. He also misspells goodbye. What? Gaster? Our Gaster? It conformed to the reflection Gaster also doesn't know how to spell goodbye?
He's just
It's also
being
worth mentioning that
funny.
this is apparently an old-fashioned way of saying goodbye, though I've had a hard time confirming this through research. Regardless, what I personally think is it's a purposefully odd spelling
know how to do
of a
the
common
eyes.
phrase to make this character sound odd, whimsical, confusing, or silly, I guess. That's the other thing about this dialogue. Yes, saying it's informal is accurate, but it doesn't paint a picture of just how jovial this is. This goes beyond being whimsical or light. It's silly. If I put Papyrus's talk sprite next to half of these lines, you'd probably believe it was spoken by him. This dialogue isn't something that's uniquely Gaster, like we'd normally expect from his sudden appearances. Silly back-and-forth confusion regarding mundane things that make us chuckle with this clearly goofy guy. The overall feel of this dialogue is in stark contrast to every other instance of Gaster. Every single one. An air of mystery is lost as this character puts his entire self on display, confusion and whimsical silly statements and all. He no longer speaks in short sentence-like bursts. Yes, his general statements are spread out. However, his pattern of each few words being broken up by a line break is no longer present. He uses longer statements and sentences. He doesn't use any obtuse large words that are present in literally every other Gaster conversation. Gaster's wording always felt like it sucked the fun out of the air, emptied the room of doubt or confusion. Specific, precise, needle thin. It's the only way I can really explain it. This is a character whose dialogue leaves absolute room for doubt. This character is definitively confused. He says things that don't make sense, but not because they're worded weirdly, but instead because they're twisty. Put on your coat and wash your face, or put on your face and wash your coat. Not necessarily in that order, or any order at all. That is a twisty, windy series of statements that do not feel like Gaster. Gaster doesn't break out Gandalf-like lyrical mazes to get our minds a-twirling. He's matter of fact. Even if that means using a large scientific word in place of many smaller words, I don't feel like this
I'll try to come back.